A Herald investigation has uncovered more than 100 oil tankers accused of covertly transporting Russian and Iranian oil have been sailing under the Cook Islands flag. These vessels operate under murky ownership structures and have been linked to sanctions breaches designed to cut off the money funding Russia's war in Ukraine. The shadow fleets have sparked alarm from foreign governments and further fractured our relationship with the Cooks. Investigations reporter Matt Nippert has been working on this story for the better part of a year now and joins me live at the desk to explain. Matt, good morning.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
So let's start with the Cooks and the flag. Why on earth are the Cooks flags on these vessels?
Well, the ships need to operate with the equivalent of a licence plate. Clearly, if you get one in New Zealand, you'll get one from the New Zealand authorities, but ships naturally will travel from one country to another. So there's a whole range of countries that offer flagging services. A flag will determine what sort of laws apply aboard a vessel, and also there's a certain degree of oversight of health and safety and the like. The Cooks seem to view it as a business. And have been signing up a range of vessels. Usually they just tended to do yachts. I think Paul Henry had his boat registered to the Cooks. But analysts had picked up an alarming spike in very large oil tankers sailing under the Cook Island flag from 2022 for some reason.
Yes, and what do we think that reason might be?
Well, I mean, if you look at the map of what the Cook Island tanker fleet was doing over this time, there's a lot of white lines travelling out of St. Petersburg and Crimea in Russia, and oil tankers don't tend to deliver oil to Russia, and it's an oil exporting country. Quite clearly, a huge number of these vessels were shipping Russian oil, and indeed over half the fleet that was flagged with Cook Island's flag at this time ended up being formally sanctioned.
So what happens to the Cooks? There's the vessels one thing, but if the flag belongs to the Cooks, do they face some kind of repercussion, or could they face some kind of repercussion?
Well, the main issue has been, the Cooks are part of the realm of New Zealand. They sit in this awkward place between independence and dependency. They're sort of in this free association. So while on the one hand you've got and New Zealand's supposed to, take oversight for foreign affairs. So while sort of MFAT and Wellington were busy, helping to arm Ukraine and sanctioning Russia and signing up to deals and plans to sort of stop the shadow fleet, another part of New Zealand was simply selling its flag to Moscow. There are some risks raised to the Cooks. If a vessel gets sanctioned, it loses insurance. Potentially, I understand, if there was an issue with these really elderly oil-filled vessels, having an accident somewhere, it could possibly raise the prospect of financial liability to the government of the Cook Islands, which, given their government budget is a touch over 100 million, could be existential.
Some of which we've just slashed as well. So there's that problem too. So what would the Cooks be getting for these flags? What do you sell them for?
Well, it's pretty hard. The outfit running the flagging operation, the Cooks, is a private company. They privatised it. Two former Cook Islands Solicitor Generals set up Maritime Cook Islands to do this. Oddly enough, one of them went on to go back into government at the same time as running the shipping registry. It's become clear that what the Cook Islands government gets from the flagging operation is, I think I put in the words of their former Prime Minister, modest, sort of a five-figure annual fee, but any sort of surplus revenue has been captured by the private shareholders.
Right. So Matt, where are these vessels going? They're taking from Iran and from Russia. Where is the oil ending up?
Well, it becomes quite murky indeed when you sort of look at how these vessels are operating, because they have very, opaque ownership structures. The one I looked at had a Azerbaijani woman who registered her address as a five-star hotel in Dubai. It's bizarre, but they will tend to pick up oil from Russia and Iran, but they won't necessarily deposit it with the end customer. There's a lot of what they call ship-to-ship transfers going on, where two ships will turn off their transponders and they'll just park up next to each other for a couple of days and effectively siphon out an entire oil tanker into another one sort of to disguise its origin. It's quite fascinating, really, laundering oil.
What does it mean for us? I mean, you mentioned they're part of our realm. Does this have blowback for New Zealand?
Well, certainly caused a number of sort of very interesting phone calls to diplomats in Wellington from London, and I think Helsinki on Christmas Day last year was calling Wellington saying, why is one of the vessels in the realm of New Zealand sort of dragging its anchor and cutting cables in the Baltic? I mean, the only way to really describe it is MFAT has been apoplectic about this. This issue predates the whole blow-up over those China agreements we saw with the cooks. It's been running on for years. The MFAT's been concerned about, the obviously reputational risk to the cooks and by extension New Zealand, and it has contributed to that deep freeze in relations that sort of is still ongoing.
Do we know whether the cooks are giving us any answers about it, or whether they've just shut up shop and aren't talking?
Well, they certainly weren't talking much a year ago. To their credit, once vessels were sanctioned, which is usually quite a long process, the cooks did sort of belatedly remove them from their register. And I think at the middle of the year, the pressure from Wellington, and possibly my question as well, saw them no longer allowing their flag to operate first in the Baltics and then suddenly no Russian oil at all. So, I mean, it only took, 3-4 years. But during that time, Russia would have made billions off this.
It's insane. I'm sort of laughing at some of the things you're saying because it just sounds preposterous. But it's happened.
Oh, it is. I mean, it is quite. It was a very strange story to report, looking at sort of very high-level geopolitics and a raging hot war, sort of at levels of the Cold War. And then you fly into Raro and there's 17,000 people there. You find the dinky little office of Maritime Cook Islands above a pearl shop. And they've been working arm in arm with Russia. It's bizarre.
Insane. We're looking forward to hearing. We are covering more on this story after 8 o'clock, and of course Matt's full report at nzherald.co.nz. Matt, thank you very much.